Good morning, class. This video is about writing a successful annotated bibliography. As you can see, I've adapted an earlier file which had the formatting of the annotated bibliography already included. And I want to just say again that you will not be writing these annotations as bullets. You'll be writing them as short paragraphs, but the bullets are meant to help visually chunk or organize information so that you can see what I'm looking for in the annotated bibliography. What you'll see here is that I have found another scholarly source related to Wordsworth and the Lake District. I found this using a library search and by using filters on the left-hand side of the search to just limit the number of sources that the library brought up. As you can see, I have followed MLA 8 practices for an online electronic peer-reviewed source that was taken from a database. You can see that the title of the article is in quotes. You can see that the journal, Literature Compass, is in italics. You can see that the volume, number, year of publication, and page range of the article are all included. You can see that after the period here, additional information is necessary because I have acquired the source through another database. I acquired this source through the U of A library, which accessed the Wiley Online Library. That's in italics. And then I included the DOI. It's a permanent link, basically, for this article, period. And then, of course, I provided the date of access. Please note that all sources in the annotated bibliography should be bolded, and the annotations should be in regular font. It's just a review from week 10. Once you have your source, once you have formatted it correctly according to MLA 8 guidelines, then what you want to do is you want to provide a brief summary, 2 to 3 sentences, of the contents of the source. Now, of course, you have not read this source before, but 2 pieces of information that are absolutely critical for you to include for every source is what kind of source it is. This is a peer-reviewed article, and the reason I know it's peer-reviewed is I put that into the filter for my library search. But also, the name of the journal is a hint, and the fact that there are volumes and numbers associated with that journal are also hints that it's peer-reviewed. This article, broadly speaking, focuses on Wordsworth's poetic mapping of the Lake District. He's using words to create a kind of imaginative map of the Lake District, not necessarily just what it looks like, but what it means to him and to others. In this annotation, I should also provide a brief analysis of the disciplinary position of the author and at least one keyword taken from the source. Remember that in our class, a discipline refers to both a subject and a perspective associated with that subject. The discipline for this particular article is literary criticism. What that means is that this is an author who is an expert on the subject of literature and who tends to look at the world from the perspective of texts. What does this work, this piece of literature, mean for our society or this time period? That is the disciplinary perspective of the author. He is a literary critic, and it is a he, David Cooper. The keyword I have taken from this article is social space. And social space actually appears at the very beginning of this article in the abstract. Landscape as a social space. You can see it right there. But I've also found social space throughout the article, and this concept seems like it will be very useful for me to write my expose. At the end of every annotation, you should also provide a sentence or two explaining how you plan to use the source in your paper. If I were you in writing this paper, I would look at the source as helping me to answer the why. Why visit and write about the Lake District through poetry? And I think that this article will help me answer that question because it is all about how a poet like William Wordsworth was able to go to a place like the Lake District, and he was able to essentially remake it as a new social space through his poetry. And that, very briefly, is how you will write a successful annotated bibliography. Make sure that in the final version of your annotated bibliography that you are writing this in the form of an unbolded paragraph block. It should include a brief summary, which tells me what kind of source it is and what generally the argument is about. It should provide a brief analysis of the discipline's position, as well as a keyword taken from the source, and then it should provide a sentence or two explaining how you will use the source in your paper. And that concludes how to write a successful annotated bibliography.